Hi, good morning and welcome to my channel. I'm Dr. Carmen McGuinness, and on this channel we discuss relationships of all sorts, including what I call the primary relationship, which is the relationship that we have with ourselves. So today I'm going to discuss a difficult topic, as I sometimes do. I'm going to discuss children who did not attach appropriately to their parents and how this plays out over the lifespan. The title of this topic is Broken Children Survive in Different Ways. So, according to attachment theory, which was first proposed by British psychologist John Bowlby, children learn to attach to their parents in different ways. Our attachment to our parents or other primary caregivers is the means by which we learn that we exist, that we are separate beings, that we have a unique identity. According to Bowlby, we literally learn who we are and our worth by seeing our parents see us. When we see love in their eyes, we learn that we're lovable. When we see disappointment, we learn that we're flawed. And when we see mean-spiritedness, we learn that we are unlovable and that maybe we should be fearful. And perhaps saddest of all, when we don't see our parents' eyes at all, when they're distracted, detached, possibly avoidant, we learn that we're invisible and that without them or someone in our lives as we mature, we will not be seen. We also learn from our parents how to regulate our emotions. We learn this by having our emotions co-regulated by our parents, by being soothed, for instance. Later researchers and theorists, including Robert Firestone, proposed that these attachment styles replay themselves in our adult romantic relationships. And some researchers, theorists, and clinicians, including myself, agree that these attachment styles can be altered by one's romantic partners across the years. This is expanded view, of course, of attachment theory, and it means that attachment is a lifelong developmental process rather than just a still picture from childhood. This is the basis of my work on this channel, with clients with relationship difficulties, and my fiction and academic books as well, and a large part of my clinical practice. Originally, 4 attachment styles were identified, in addition to the secure attachment. So secure attachment represents about 20 to 30% of the population. The other 4 include 2 kinds of anxious attachment and 2 kinds of avoidant attachment. These less favorable attachments develop when, for whatever reason, the child doesn't receive sufficient love, attention, and a sense of safety from his or her parent or parents. And before we start blaming parents for this, I want to be very clear that there are many reasons why this can occur. Though there are just bad parents as well, those who are self-absorbed and detached, most parents aren't bad. They're not bad people, and they don't have ill intentions. They might end up not being the best parents, but they're not bad people and they don't mean to be bad parents. In fact, most people in the world today are doing the very best that they can. And it's important that we hang on to that, because at the end of this, and in other videos, not in this one, is forgiveness. So moving on, possible problems include marital difficulties, including abuse in the home, depression or mood disorders, illness of one of the parents or both of the parents, the child themselves or another family member, under or unemployment, homelessness, and of course many have a history of being poorly parented themselves. They are victims themselves. So I'll go through these less favorable attachments with a focus on three things. Number one, how each attachment style gains love and safety from their parents, how they cope, basically, and later their romantic partners, and how each fends off loneliness. According to Ross Rosenberg, the core deficit of poor attachment is the loneliness the child feels when his parent doesn't attend to his needs, or does so with dismissal rather than quality attention. And thirdly, I'll discuss the trajectory or likely outcome of these attachment styles. At the end of the talk, I'll briefly discuss how personality plays into this, because our unique personalities are very much participant in who we become. So starting off with these four less favorable attachment styles, we have anxious, insecure. And the anxious, insecure child might suffer separation anxiety and or night terrors. And they're generally fearful and insecure when separated from their parents, though they do recover and are comforted when in the presence of their parents. So sad, hysterical sometimes when separated, but comforted and somewhat secure when present, although there is an underlying fear always that the parent will leave again. These children learn to gain love and protection from their parents by noticing what pleases them and performing accordingly. For example, Josie is the little helper, taking care of her baby brother and giving her mommy shoulder rubs. And Sanjay is quiet and works hard not to disturb his very busy professional parents. These children fend off loneliness by working very hard at playing their part and gaining whatever attention that part earns them. Anxious, insecure children are at risk of what we call parentification. This is when the child-parent role is reversed and the child becomes the caregiver either to his parent or to other family members, frequently younger siblings. And I'll put up a link here to another video I made on the topic of parentification. As adults, these individuals are people pleasers, often workaholics, and might be taken advantage of by their friends, as they often were by their parents. And they're at high risk of developing codependency in their romantic relationships. The second anxious attachment style is the anxious ambivalent child. And these children are also insecure and tend to suffer from generalized anxiety. However, these children find themselves torn between needing and not trusting their parents. They are not soothed and calm even when their parents are near, and they tend toward chronic fussiness and whining, which of course can be even more off-putting to the parent. Their primary means of gaining closeness is to cling to their parents. They fend off loneliness by whining, which elicits comforting, but possibly in a more disdainful way. As adults, they are prone to psychosomatic illness, depression, overdependence on their partners, often to the point of driving their partners away from them, crushing fear of abandonment, and histrionic behavior patterns overall. So that's the anxious, insecure attachments. And now on to the avoidant attachment styles. These are the two that are more likely to have experienced or witnessed aggression or of some sort, whether emotional or physical. So they've either experienced it themselves or witnessed it. Often it's not them who was injured, but it might be a spousal abuse or something like that. During traumatic events, they may have depersonalized. In other words, this is when the individual separates mind from body in order to avoid the pain of the situation. These individuals are also at greater risk of fragmentation or developing more than one personality. And a disclaimer here, the field is split in this itself. Not all psychologists and psychiatrists believe that split personalities even exist, and then others believe that they're much more common than previously recognized. So, disclaimer. So, starting off with these guys, the fearful avoidant children are also torn between needing and not trusting their parents. However, instead of becoming clingy, they learn to recognize when to rely on their parents and when to avoid closeness out of a fear of being rejected. They fend off loneliness through detachment and fantasies. These may involve fairy tale-like stories of their current life and future. As adults, they may also distrust themselves, possibly because their fairy tales haven't come true. Despite this, they give the appearance of overconfidence. They may vacillate between needing and being needed by, and resenting friends, co-workers, and romantic partners in the classic approach avoidance complex style. So again, needing, being needed by, or resenting. They may be more prone to narcissism, but in fact are actually more likely to become the selfless hero. And in the worst scenarios, they're at risk of personality fragmentation. Dismissive avoidant children decide early that they don't need their parents. They get their needs met on their own and resent help from others. This is the fourth kind, dismissive avoidant. They fend off loneliness with disregard and unnatural independence. As adults, they may be prone to casual relationships or relationships in which they can either have complete control or exist in a kind of parallel world with their partner and family, where they have very little responsibility and involvement. They are highly likely to engage in infidelity and cheating in other ways as well, such as funneling at home or at work, funneling money, funneling resources, and also tax evasion. In the worst case scenarios, they may present with antisocial personality disorder. So although we are not our parents, we are what our parents make us. However, not entirely. There are major studies in the field of personality that reveal that many of the traits, those characteristics that are consistent throughout the lifespan, are largely born into us, uniquely us, rather than created by our parents and our life experiences. And among them are a sense of well-being, number one, joy of life, joie de vivre, number two, and the capacity to enjoy peak experiences, number three. We might say that these three allow us to see the good in life rather than the bad. While this is likely to get us through negative experiences, it may also allow us to be prone toward what Robert Firestone termed fantasy in our relationships. So, Robert Firestone talked about the fantasy bond, where the child imagines that he's in a perfect situation, imagines that his parent is caring for him, imagines his parent's eyes. So, although joy of life and the capacity to enjoy peak experiences and a sense of well-being may get us through less favorable attachment styles, it may also lead to fantasy bonds, which of course could go on into adult relationships, as Firestone points out. So those are some of the traits that can lift us up if we don't have a secure bond with our parents. And unfortunately, here's one that can be a problem and pull us down into a less favorable outcome. So research has shown that the trait most influenced by the environment is the need for personal intimacy. We see how this can be a problem if we're in a family of cold parents, or one cold parent and one fearful parent, for instance. However, the other traits, such as the joy of life, may well save us in the end when we find ourselves grown and out in the world. Assuming, of course, that we're inherently high in those characteristics. And this in part might explain why one sibling grows to be a narcissist and the other becomes more empathic. So that's what I have for you today. I know many watching this will want more. This is a deep topic, and it probably pinged a few people. A few people are going, I wonder where I fall on this. I wonder where my significant other falls on this. And I could go on forever. In fact, I am going on for, not forever, but for a very long time in a book that I'm working on, an academic book. But this video is quite long already, so we'll end it here. There are links, I'll disperse links throughout this video that may also help you. So do go back and follow some of them. And also peruse my content list. I try to make the names as descriptive as possible. I wish you peace and love today and in the coming new year, and I look forward to seeing you later in the week for my midweek sneak peek as to what will be next week's topic. So, peace, and I'll see you soon. Take care.